Hello and welcome to another live stream. So today we're going to go through the photos that I did for Tugum and the photos I did a couple of nights ago down at Point Vernon. So first off, let's just check our audio levels and make sure everything sounds okay, and then we'll get started. So if there's anyone in the stream, just let me know what the audio is like and we'll get into some of these photos. Yes, the good, the bad and the ugly, because sounds good. Okay, perfect. Yes, there is some good, there's some bad, and there is some ugly. So we will get through them, and Jack's laughing at me. Jack is part of the ugly, just sneak peek. So yeah, we'll go through the photos. So yeah, look, the photos I took at Tugum, it was a really nice live stream. It was a nice sky, like everything was looking really good. When I got there was a couple of people fishing in my spot. So I sort of wanted to be up on the point so I could get the whole bay of Tugum. And I kind of got pushed down a little bit sort of where I didn't want to be. And this is what you're going to see in the live streams. You're going to see photos that don't work. And I honestly, there's a couple of okay ones, and these would be what you would call nice snapshots, but they're not the sort of photos that I'm after. So we'll go through them. So yeah, anyone who's new to the channel, basically I do live streams out in the field. So I go out, take photos, and then I get to show you all my raw files. And I'll go through and edit some of the ones that I like. So we've got Jack's in here. G'day, Leslie. So yes, thank you for joining in. And yeah, like I said, some of these photos at Tugum, they're just, you know, everything was nice. Like we had a nice beach and nice sunset, but yeah, as we go through, you'll sort of see why I didn't really think they were that great. So let's get going. Let me just check the stream, make sure everything is running okay. Yeah, that looks fine. I'm just getting a loading screen at my end. So let me know if anything happens. I can sort of ditch the webcam if things start to get a bit too laggy. But yeah, everything's looking okay at the moment. All right, now let's have a look at this. This is the first photo from Tugum. Let me just double check our audio. Yeah, everything looks okay. I'm just getting a loading screen. All right, let me know if everything's working okay. So yeah, these are the photos from Tugum. So like I said, it was a really epic night. Tugum is a lovely place. Like it's one of those places where really nice place to go and visit. This is the first time I've taken photos there. So I've learned a little bit, and that's the good thing about doing these live streams is, you know, I'm going to places that I haven't necessarily shot all the time, and trying to find what works. And now that I've been there and failed, I know what works. Okay, so next time I go back there, and you know, that's what happens. When you go to a place, you're always going to come home, and then you're going to see things that you might have missed. So let me know how the stream is. Because yeah, I've got a loading screen. If anyone's in the chat, just let me know that everything's running okay. Because I've got a loading screen at my end and I don't want to keep going if we're just loading. Everything seems to be okay at this end. All right, so let's go through these photos for Tugum. So the first couple, these were all just handheld, no tripod at this stage, plenty of light, so handheld. And as you can see, like these first ones, these are kind of what I call my warm-up shots. So just trying to get a basic composition, just make sure the memory card's working, make sure everything's working fine. So these are kind of my test shots. Looks and sounds fine. Okay, good. So maybe it's just, yeah, my end's going a bit funny, but I won't worry about that. And then I've got to the stage where, you know, I did want the beach, but what was really annoying me was all these footprints. Like I like a nice clean beach if I'm going to do beach shots. And there was a lot of footprints. There was kind of a few sticks and things around. So then I've tried to find some foreground interest just to sort of take our eye away from all these footprints. And again, these, I just didn't think they worked. Okay, and I think I mentioned this one on stream that we had this log kind of cutting through into our background. So I've just recomposed again. This one's okay. We're starting to get there. And then the sun came out. So shooting directly into the sun is not the best idea in the world. We've got some lens flare. You can see there's a bit of a spot on my lens as well. But composition-wise, that's a bit better. I kind of like that one. I think that's when I started to do my bracketed exposures. So normally I would blend these two together. G'day Crusher, how are you? Good evening. Have you been out taking photos recently? I haven't seen you for a while. I miss your photos going up. So yeah, it's we've had a couple of good sunsets lately. We've had some stormy weather. This night at Toogoom was really nice. This was a nice night. It's just I'll be back. I'm going to go back to Toogoom. I'm not going to let it defeat me. As much as I'm, you know, these photos are okay, but yeah, I want to get something a bit nicer, and I have a plan. So again, just kind of doing multiple exposures at this stage, trying to find some foreground interest. And, you know, from a distance it looks okay, but once we zoom in, and this is how I look at photos, because I want to print them big. And if I print this big, this foreground's just messy. Okay, so that's sort of something that I don't want in my prints. You know, fine for Facebook and social media. A nice photo, but yeah, not the sort of epic photo that I was hoping for. So I did a few there, and then I went and rethunk, and then I went up to the back, and this wasn't on stream. I kind of mentioned, "G'day Pam, how are you? Welcome along." So how did the sunset end up out at Maryborough tonight? It kind of, everything went a bit grey here tonight, sort of clouded over and sheeted in. So yeah, I couldn't get out tonight, but yeah, let me know how you went, if you did get any photos tonight. So then yeah, up into the bushes and just shooting at, I think this one I went to a wider aperture, okay, just to try and get almost like that classic sunset with the blurred background, and you know, that makes for a nice wall art. So that photo's okay. I'm kind of happy with that one. That's not too bad. So this is the one with the log, and to me, like, the log's too messy. I do like a good foreground, but this log was messy. Crusher, no, very slack, but a few days off now, so better make an effort. Yeah, get out there, and I miss your photos. I do like your photos, so yeah, get out there and show me what I'm missing out on. So we'll catch up one day. We'll try and organise something, and we'll do a bit of a catch up one day. I'll post something a bit earlier on Facebook and let you know when I'm going to go out. I was going to do a sunrise this week, but I got my son working at 5 a.m, which is kind of, I want to be there before 5 a.m. So I'll blame him for not getting up to, I'll be up at 4 a.m, but I won't be taking photos of the sunrise. So look, these ones, again, they're okay, but this foreground, to me, it's just too messy, okay? Like, it's a really interesting log, but there's too much going on. It's not a clean shot. I like clean shots, and that's just, to me, it's just too messy. I could probably, you know, I could give it the HDR treatment and polish it up a bit, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, not as nice as I thought it was going to be. A bit grey, no photos. Yeah, kind of greyed over, didn't it? So yeah, we'll definitely catch up. I'll put something on Facebook, and we'll catch up one evening, maybe down at one of the piers, and do a bit of a. We might even do if anyone's up for a live stream, we'll just do like a big group session. You don't have to be on camera, but yeah, it'd be nice to catch up. But yeah, I think for starters, we'll just meet up without any cameras or anything. So yeah, like, look at that sunset. It was really nice. I was a bit disappointed when I got home. And look, you know, I could crop it in. There'd be nothing wrong with cropping it in, but I don't like to crop too much. So, you know, there's a lot going on, and we do get some better photos of Jack fishing later. So I was just working this foreground, and it wasn't working for me. And this is what you're going to see in live streams. You're going to see that not every time we go out, we get a winner. We get a few shots that are hard work, to tell the truth. Like, it's, again, like I said before, Toogoom, beautiful beach, beautiful location, but it was just hard work. So this is when I decided to do some panos. So I just stitched one of the panos together just to have a look. And again, like, there's so much going on there. Probably would have been better. I think I did zoom in later and just ditch the foreground altogether. So that was one kind of zoomed in on the pier. That one's not too bad, with the beach kind of curling around. But again, like, you know, there's a lot going. It's a nice picture if you live there. But this one's a little bit better. Okay, so this one I don't mind. This one's okay. If this guy in the boat didn't have an orange jacket on, I could probably clone that out, but that's a nicer composition. Again, all this sand, if that was nice clean sand with no footprints, then it completely changes the shot, okay? A clean sandy beach with no footprint can really make or break one of these types of shots. Because then you can really focus on that sand. You can focus it, you know, you've got this beautiful clean white sand, but yeah, the footprints were just a bit messy for my liking. And then again, we did a few more panos. So I went and stitched these panos just to save some time. So again, this one okay, but once again, too much foreground. So, you know, again, if I was going to crop it, I'd probably crop it in and just kind of get that skyline. Because like there's a like, especially out here, that's nice. It was one of those days I'd sort of wish I had the 24-105. If I had the 24-105, I'd be framing up shots more like this, like really zooming in. But yeah, this was look, this was just to get out there, to tell the truth. It was one of those evenings where my ankle was still pretty sore, so I just wanted to get out and try somewhere new. Okay, so here's another one, and again, this time I think I shot this one at almost 40 mil. Okay, so this one I could definitely crop in a bit more. These were all shot in like the portrait orientation. So by the time I stitch them together, there's plenty of detail there. And again, like, you know, you could probably crop it in and get rid of some of that sky, but yeah, 24-105 would have made some better shots. I'll get into the editing soon. I want to show you these. I'm not going to bother with them. They're okay. And then we did some silhouettes. Okay, so these are the silhouettes that I've got of Jack. And again, I've just sort of fired off a few different shots just to show you how to do a silhouette. So essentially expose for your sky, and then whatever subject you've got against that sky is naturally going to be dark. Because the sky is so bright, we're just exposing for our sky, and then creating that silhouette. Getting down low, getting some separation between Jack and the horizon. There was one down here. This is probably my favourite of the bunch. Okay, so I've got this wave rolling in. Nice, clean. A boy holding his rod. Okay, nice, just a simple fishing shot. Okay, nothing to, and that's the raw file. So, you know, if anything, we'd probably bring down the highlights a little bit. I'll give you a quick, like, this is how I process my silhouettes. So I don't use a preset for this one. Like if we do there's the normal landscape preset, and as you see, it's sort of bringing out some detail in his shirt. With a silhouette, what we don't want to lift our shadows or our blacks. We actually want to take them the other way. So if we bring our shadows down and bring our blacks down, now we're really creating a silhouette. Okay. Also, I bring down my highlights a bit just to get sort of that detail in the sky. And bump up the contrast as well. And again, the contrast will just make the blacks blacker and the sky just add a bit more. Probably even just crank up the contrast, the vibrance a bit. Okay, and that's a nice shot. Okay, that's a nice silhouette. Okay, I like the way that wave's rolling. I'll probably just straighten it a bit. I don't like my horizon being crooked. So that's a nice shot. Okay. So yeah, I rattled off a few shots there just at, you know, getting him casting. I think I had one sort of mid cast with the rod and the lure flicking. Probably should have gone a faster shutter speed, but yeah, it was kind of like a last minute, not a planned shot. So yeah, that one was okay. So I didn't come away completely empty-handed. I do like that shot. It's yeah, that's nice. Okay, so I've got some good shots of Jack there fishing. And then we get into the blue hour, and again, they're okay. They're not great. They're okay. That stick on the beach is a little bit annoying. So yeah, they're okay. And then again, I tried a few more, just, you know, blue hour shots. So again, normally I would stitch these two or blend them together, but I just think that foreground, it's just too messy. It's for my liking. It's just too messy. There's too much going on down here. Didn't have all these leaves and footprints, you know, we might have been able to make something out of it, but yeah, the way it's just sort of cutting through the scene. And then I tried a couple in portrait mode, which are kind of okay, but again, to me, yeah, just a foreground's too messy. Okay, I don't like all of this, what's going on down here, and that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes you're just going to get that. So I'm not going to edit these photos. I'm just going to leave them. I don't think they're worth editing. Well, I've got some much better ones. When we got the storm photos, they're much better. But just to give you an idea, this is, you might have seen the time lapse at the start of the video. The time lapse was all done with the GoPro, and have a look at these shots on the GoPro. So this was the GoPro set up to do a time lapse, and I reckon these are actually better than what I did. Face cam's glitching in and out a tiny bit. Yeah, the face cam, I think, yeah, Lightroom, I've got Lightroom and Photoshop running, so the face cam might glitch in and out a bit. If it gets too bad, if the face cam glitches too much, let me know and I'll shut it down. So yeah, these are the shots with the GoPro, and these are really nice. So now that I've sort of seen these, that gives me some ideas for next time, and really incorporate, I'd cut out some of that, the footprints, okay, get in nice and close to all the grasses. During the day, there's some nice pink flowers in amongst all these plants. But yeah, once the sun sets, all those flowers disappear. So that sort of it's given me a few ideas for next time, that I'll get up into the grasses if I can't get out onto the point where I wanted to be. Okay, so, but yeah, the time-lapse footage, I was really happy with that. So there's just a few snippets from the time-lapse. But yeah, that composition, and that's good. Now that I see that, it's given me some motivation to get back to Tugum and have another crack at it. All right, let's just check what this face cam's doing at the moment. Yeah, if it gets too glitchy, I think it's any time I use any of the AI features, the face cam will completely glitch out. It's yeah, don't get me started on the AI features in Photoshop and Lightroom. Okay, let's move on to the good photos, because we'll do some editing on these ones. Point Vernon. All right, let's get into these. So these ones, I was pretty happy with these. Didn't get the lighting I wanted, but they're quite nice. Now these are a few shots I took before the stream started. I wanted to get all that cloud while it was there. And again, very simple composition, nothing too out of control. Down nice and low. I do like these sorts of shots down low. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick a couple of them and we're going to edit them. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of them. So this is the first one from the stream. This is where the stream started. And I just kind of moving around to get the reflections in the puddle, which I think this one was kind of the closest that I got. Again, like if I had one of those flippy screens, one of the articulating screens, I'd be able to frame it up a lot better. So yeah, Canon, if you're listening, I'm looking for a new camera and I want a flippy screen. Send me one and I'll test it out for you. So yeah, look, it's okay. It's okay. It's not epic at this stage, but they get better. Okay. I did a lot of panos, and I think I mentioned that in the stream. So once again, I've gone through, I've stitched all the panos together just to save some time. So yeah, I did a lot of panos. Okay, so that's just a plain stitch. I would crop this in. Let's just crop it in, make it a little bit nicer. Okay, and yeah, really nice reflections in this one. So that's sort of, there's not a lot happening up the top of the frame. So I'm just sort of looking at this cloud here and just framing it so I've got that cloud in my shot. I don't need all that grey sky up above. So I'm just going to bring that down there. I don't need this whole tree to the side. I just want kind of my edges coming in, leading into the middle. So kind of somewhere around about there is roughly where I'd frame it up. And look, a good idea with storm photos. Love these stormy ones. Yeah, look, the storm, you can't beat a good storm. And I'll show you a trick how to get all the detail out of these clouds. Okay, and because they're panos, these are huge files. So these could make everything glitch. So this is essentially the raw files. I've just done my basic highlights and shadows. What I would do normally is bring up my foreground a bit, get my foreground to roughly where I want it. So somewhere around about there. And then I'm going to do an adjustment layer for my sky. So I've taken my foreground up by just over half a stop. So now I'm going to bring down my sky by about half a stop. And if you just hold the shift key and then drag, that'll give us a nice straight line. And now while we've got the sky selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to my effects. And these effects, I'm going to crank them up just so you can see them on YouTube better. But look at the difference that makes to the storm. Now, I suggest you don't crank them that far. Okay, so the reason I do this on YouTube is because if I do it sort of how I prefer to do it, you're not going to notice a big difference. So normally I would take them up to about 20 at the most. Okay, so and that's enough to kind of give you some nice detail in that sky. Let me just zoom in on it so we can get a better look at it. And then go back to here. Okay, so like I said, you're not going to notice a massive difference. But if I crank it up, you watch what happens to those clouds when I like really overdo these three sliders. Like, look how much more detail we're getting out of those clouds now. Okay, so those sliders are good for doing stormy clouds. Again, don't push them too far because then things will just start to look unnatural. But yeah, for the sake of this stream, I'm just going to push. I've got some better ones which I'll spend a bit more time on later. But yeah, that's sort of generally how I do my storms. I'd select the sky separately, and then just crank up those sliders. Like I said, I'll probably push them to about 20. That's usually enough. Another thing, if you start to push them too far, you introduce a lot of noise and crunchiness, and things just get a bit out of control. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to crank all these up. Probably going to be hard to see on YouTube, but you kind of introduce a lot of noise with these sliders, like adding all the texture and clarity makes everything very crunchy. So if you do that, I just recommend add a little bit of luminance, noise reduction. Okay, so go down to your detail tab. So detail tab, we don't need that one there. And then down to your noise reduction. Stay away from the AID noise if you want to have everything running smoothly. Look, the AID noise is good, but yeah, it's not as far as streaming goes. And then just your luminance. Your luminance will just smooth out all that crunchiness. Okay. And again, it's a probably good idea to do it just to the mask, and we can do that on the mask. We just come down, it's under the detail tab, and it is under, where is it? Where is it? I know it's in here somewhere. Or is it? It used to be in here somewhere. Sharpness, noise reduction. There it is there. It's called noise reduction. It's not called luminance. It's just called noise reduction. And it's under your detail tab. So you can do that to the mask. So if you get all that clarity and dehaze in your sky, yeah, just increase your noise reduction a bit just to smooth it out, make it look nice. Love doing panoramas, but don't always have a tripod. So handheld is it, and sometimes they work and sometimes not. Yeah, handheld can be tricky. Tripods, yeah, if you watch the live stream, it's all about getting that tripod nice and level. If you get the tripod nice and level, it makes a good pano. Handheld, you've got to, I use the grid lines on the back of the camera and just try and get those grid lines to be exactly on the horizon as I do my shots. So I'm planning a panorama, just a regular YouTube video soon, like almost a beginner's guide to panoramas, because there's a few things that sort of will help. Shooting wide angle is not a good idea, as I've done here. Yeah, wide angle kind of, you get a lot of distortion, so they don't stitch together great. But I will do a shorter video, a simple and effective way for panos, and I will cover handheld. I'm going to cover handheld on a tripod, wide angle, and sort of break it down into different videos. But panos are really good. They're good, especially when you've got a sky like this, when you've got so much going on. Yeah, panos can be good. I'm just going to warm that up a little bit. Like I said, I've got some better ones, so I'm just doing a very quick edit on this one. Yeah, I don't want to keep this stream going for too long. I'm going to keep it fairly short. I think I've already talked too much. So what I'll do, let me just skip through to some of it. They're all very similar shots. Okay, as you can see here now, our cloud's starting to get a bit better. Everything's just lagging a bit. We'll just wait for it to catch up. And we'll go into here. So this is the one I like. This is, or is there a better one? Nah, this one's, that was where the tide came in. And look, if I didn't have a bung ankle, I would have stayed out there in the water to get all those reflections. So stay tuned. I'll go back out there when my ankle's feeling better, and we'll stay there as the tide pushes in. So yeah, this one, I do like this one. So once again, this is another pano. I'm just going to bring in my corners a little bit. Bring up that bottom just a tad. And again, now that I can kind of look at these, it would have been nice to get a bit more reflection. And that's why next time I'll wait for that tide to come in a little bit more to cover all that sand and then get some really nice reflections. Okay, so this this is nice. Okay, there's a lot going on in the sky. There is just detail everywhere. Got this dude coming back from his fishing trip. We've got some colour over here. Got the yacht. Like, another good thing with pano, I think this ended up being about an 80 megapixel. So I've just got a 20 megapixel camera. By the time I stitch all these together, you're looking at, you know, between 80 to 90 megapixels. So good for big prints. If you want to do nice big prints, like you can see that car there with the headlights, you can see the yacht, you can, there's just so much detail in a pano. Really good for making big prints, okay? Because you're stitching a heap of 20 megapixel, whatever megapixel images you've got. But yeah, this one here, it's like just, I love it. There's lots going on in that cloud, lots going on in the sky. I'm just gonna I've bought a beer tonight too. So cheers and thank you to everyone who's watching. We're going to start some editing now. I'm going to stop talking and start doing some editing. And to be honest, I still like to edit in Photoshop. So I do kind of all of my basic adjustments in Lightroom, and then I'm going to bring it into Photoshop to do the finishing touches. Okay, so this is essentially the raw file. I've just brought down my highlights and my whites, lifted my shadows and my blacks. Similar to what I did before, I'm just going to bring my exposure up just about half a stop just to get some more detail in my foreground. Okay, so you know, there's lots going on. There's just so much detail in this image. It's yeah, panos need to see these printed big. They're bloody amazing. Okay. And then I'm going to bring down my sky as well because I've lifted the foreground. I'm just going to do a linear gradient and just bring that down by about a stop. And similar to what I did before, I'm going to go into my effects. I'm just going to lift the clarity. I'm going to do it the way I do it, so you might not notice a big difference. And lift all them by around about 20. That's just enough to kind of get some detail back in there. The noise, we probably don't need to deal with noise, simply because I'm not cranking them all the way. Okay, so, and I didn't even apply that. Let's go back and redo that. Linear gradient, crank all them, and then I'm just going to hold my shift key and get that on the horizon fairly level. Somewhere around about there. Okay, and that's pretty much all I do in Lightroom. I know a lot of people like to do all their adjustments in Lightroom. I'm still a bit old school. I'm just used to Photoshop. And a lot of what I'm about to do in Photoshop can be done in Lightroom. I just find Photoshop a bit easier to work with. And it's just a preference thing. So I'm just going to right click on that pano now and then edit in and edit in Photoshop. And again, like I've said this 1,000 times, a good image is a good image. You don't need to do a lot to it. And I'm not going to do a lot more to this. I'm basically just going to get a little bit more detail in that sky. Play around with my white point, my black point, and just sort of lighten everything up. Good evening, Ultimate. How are you? Welcome. You've come just at the right time. I've been talking crap for the first, how long have we been going for? Half an hour. I've been talking crap for half an hour and I'm about to start editing. So here's our first image. Yeah, look at it. Like there's so much going on in this. What's going on with my, just so much going on. And this is actually stitched together pretty well. Our horizon's not perfectly straight, but it's pretty good. Okay, so that one's actually stitched together. That's reasonable. Okay, that's not too bad as far as stitching goes. So the first thing I'm going to do, you'll probably see me do this in another stream. I'm going to press Control and J, make a copy, Control and R for my ruler, and then I'm just going to, once I've got my ruler here, all I'm going to do is grab up here and click and drag, and that's going to give me a grid line. And I'm going to put that roughly on the horizon where I want it. So first thing I'm going to do is get my horizon sorted, get that nice and straight. The reason I make a copy, because with the Puppet Warp tool that I'm about to use, it needs to be done either on a copied layer or an unlocked layer. I always like to create a separate layer so then I can still see my original one underneath. It's sort of more of a habit of, rather than working on the original photo, I'm making a copy, doing my edits on the copy, and before I can sort of compress them together. Okay, so I'll get my copy sorted first, and if we go up to the Edit tab, and we come down to the Puppet Warp tool, so this thing here, this is a magic tool for getting nice straight panos, especially shooting wide angle. If you're shooting like, you know, pretty much from 35mm upwards, it's not much of an issue, but yeah, with wide angles, and this was shot at I think 17mm. So what I'm going to do, now that I've got that grid line there, I am just going to start putting some little dots along the horizon. Okay, and once you've opened the Puppet Warp tool, all I'm doing is just clicking on my horizon, and then what we're going to do is we're going to lift all those dots up and click them onto that horizon. So bear with me while I go through this. It's a bit of a slow process. I'm just trying to find wherever the horizon's dipping up and down. Over here is kind of fine. That's not really the horizon, but yeah, so I'm just sort of, you know, it is pretty straight. This one's not too bad. This is actually a good one. Okay, so I can see that it starts to dip down a fair bit here. So the more it dips, the more I like to put more points. The more points, the more, there's a little dip there. Just, it makes for a smoother transition from, okay, so now that I've got all my dots roughly where I want them, all I'm going to do is now grab that dot and lift it up, and it'll snap onto that ruler that I've just put there. Okay, and then by the time I've finished this, you'll see that this will be a perfectly straight horizon. So yeah, the Puppet Warp tool, it's there's lots of ways of doing it. I just find this way is probably the most accurate, because especially with wide angle panos, things can get very wonky. Yeah, like I said, there's lots of other ways. I know some people like to straighten all their images first and then stitch them, but Lightroom does a really good job with raw files now. Lightroom tends to, you know, apply a little bit of a lens correction before it does its stitch. Okay, so all I'm doing is clicking all these little points up onto that line. And I think that's in the preference. I think there's a thing in the preferences to make, can't remember what it's called, but to make things click to the line. So if it doesn't click, you might have to Google it, because I can't remember how to do it. And now that I've put all those dots there, all those dots are slap bang on the horizon, and that's how you get a perfectly straight horizon. Well, that's how I do it, okay? A lot of the times you can, yeah, get it right in the first place and you don't have to do that. And then if we just press Control and 0, that'll take us back out to full screen. Click our tick button. It'll take a while just to process, so the camera will probably go funny while I do this. Okay, and then if we just grab our move tool, we can grab that little line, make it disappear. Control and R, or Command and R. And that's how you get your perfectly straight horizon. Well, that's how I get my straight horizon. Okay, so there's before. As you can see, it wasn't sort of dipping down to the sides. And now if I hide that background layer, I kind of see now where it's been transformed. So now I'm going to recrop. Okay, so by hiding that background layer, we can see that we've realigned everything. That's another reason I make a copy, just so I can kind of see where my original image started and where this one has ended up. So yeah, somewhere around about there looks pretty. I might just get a bit more over. When it comes to cropping, if you just put it onto ratio, I don't know why that's on 1:1, but if you put it onto ratio, you can crop any way you want. Okay, so I'm going to do it just manually. I'm going to crop how I want it. Okay, if you have it on original ratio, whatever the original photo was, it will stay to that ratio. So again, the sky, there's a lot of grey up along the top that I don't really need. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let's just undo that for a second. Control and Z is your undo button if you ever do that. Okay, so yeah, look, some of that grey is actually not bad. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there because it does look quite nice. Okay, so there's that was my favourite panel of the night. I've really just so much going on in the sky. Not the most epic foreground, but got to remember that I'm sort of on one leg at the moment. And then I'm just going to go up to layer and flatten image. Okay, so that's my starting point. So there's the start of the pano. So now all I'm really going to do with this is I might try and bring back a little bit of detail in this sky. So again, I'm going to press Ctrl and J, make a copy. Then I'm going to go up to my camera raw filter. Okay, and I'll show you a really cool trick that I've only just discovered recently. It's really good. It's a really good trick. Yeah. So what I want to do is just bring back some of this detail in the sky. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my highlights down a little bit, and I'm going to overdo this again for the purposes of YouTube. Bring that down quite a bit. Bring this down quite a bit as well. Okay, because I really want to get all that detail in there. Okay, add a little bit of contrast. That'll give it some colour, so somewhere around about there. All I'm looking at is the brighter parts of the image at this stage. Okay, I tend to do lots of little adjustments. So, at this stage, I'm just looking at the bright parts, and then we'll deal with the other parts as we go. Now, if anyone sort of kept track of my easiest way to exposure blend, this is a little spin on that easy way to exposure blend. So what I've done, there's the adjustment that I've just done for all my highlight detail. What I've done is I've copied my background layer. So I've just pressed Ctrl and J on that background layer, which has given me another copy of the original photo. Now what I'm going to do is create a layer mask. With the mask selected, I'm going to go to Channels, hold Control and select RGB, and that does the luminosity mask. So that's picking out the brightest parts of the image. Okay, so it's just selecting the brightest parts. And now if I come back to my layers, and I've still got that layer mask selected, and I'm going to press Ctrl and I, invert, and look at that. Okay, you probably didn't notice it on YouTube, but from looking at that layer mask, what it's done, it's blacked out all of the brightest parts. Okay, so you don't even need to brush it. Just on that layer mask, you invert your mask. Once you've selected the brightest parts, you invert it, and what it'll do, it'll black out all of the brightest parts to reveal what's underneath. Give it a try. Yeah, it's good rather than using the brush. Okay, so there's the original photo, and now I've just blended in like those darker parts into the brighter parts. Okay, so we've left all our shadow detail as it is, and we're just bringing in the brightest parts and making them a little bit darker. So now if I zoom in on this cloud, there's where we started. Okay, very white, not exactly washed out, but just very white. And now just with that luminosity mask, we've brought in a lot more color and detail, like especially over here in the blue areas where it was very sort of washed out. Now we've got all that color. Okay, so that's, yeah, a cool little tip just to deal with your brighter parts. Okay, so now that's looking better already, I reckon. So I'm going to flatten that once again. I'm not one of these people that work with thousands of layers. I like to just do a layer, flatten it, and then deal with it as I go. And honestly, I don't need to do too much more to this. Definitely need some Photoshop lessons. Yeah, look, now that you've got your head around Lightroom, you're probably ready for some Photoshop. And look, in these sort of streams, I'm just doing what I do. I'll still break down my videos for the simple and effective ones. These streams are more to show how I process my images. So I'll sort of give you some ideas, but now I'm processing it the way I want to process it. So in a way, it's kind of like a full workflow what I'm doing now. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to leave there for a second. I'm just going to go and check on the dog and grab another drink. So bear with me for a second. I will be back very shortly. So stay tuned and I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, just had to go and check on the dog. She had an operation today and she's not feeling too good. So now let's get back into this edit. And I just went and topped up my beer. So yeah, look, what I'm going to do with this is I always leave my sharpening tool last. So sharpening is the last thing that I do. What I'm going to do is just do a quick check of the image and make sure that we haven't got anything that shouldn't be here. So dust spots, anything like that. So all I do is zoom in, just give the image a quick scan, make sure we don't have any dust spots or anything weird going on that happened in the stitching. And that's another thing with panos. With panos, yeah, sometimes you can get overlaps and all sorts of weird things happen. So I'm just checking that there's nothing kind of... I don't know whether I want that guy there. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I do. There's my GoPro. My GoPro's sitting there in the water. I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm just going to use the spot healing brush. And I'll just make a nice small brush. I don't want my GoPro in the shot. So I'm just going to clone that out. And I think I will get rid of that guy. The fact that he's got like a green shirt, just a little bit distracting. Okay, that's not a great job. If your healing brush doesn't work, so in that case, to me, it's not a great job. My favorite tool is the clone stamping tool. So this one here, the clone stamping tool. And all I'm going to do is if you hold the Alt button, it's going to sample here. So if I sample, I'm going to sample right on the horizon. And then what it's going to do, it's going to sample that area. And then I'll get it, oh God, I can't get it straight. And then just start to paint. So then it's actually sampling my own image. It's not trying to fill in gaps. Makes it a lot more natural looking. Worked fine down here, but yeah, every now and then if you sort of see that it doesn't do a great job, try the clone stamping tool. What's that out on the horizon? I think there was some dudes out on there on a kayak. Like, that's how much detail we've got. We can actually see guys on the kayak out there. So yeah, neat little trick. That is a good trick. And that's what I'm going to just, yeah, like I said, there's lots of little things that I do that it depends on the image. So this one here, I want to try and get as much detail, you know, like all this highlight detail, I just wanted to bring it all back. I wanted to get all that back, okay? The clone stamping tool is great for like making a nice clean patch. Okay, this sky, I do want to amplify this sky a bit. So again, I'm going to press Control and J. Going to go up to my camera raw filter. How long have we gone for? 45. I'll try and keep it to less than an hour. Again, these are more to show you my raw files than, you know, to teach. I will keep doing my simple and effective shorter videos. And what I'm going to do is let's overcook this sky. I'm really going to overcook this sky. So I'm going to do an overcook. So I'm going to just crank up all of these sliders, just make it a little bit darker, a bit more moodier. Let's crank up our texture again, the clarity again. Okay, and look at that. Look how much difference that makes. Okay, so now it's overdone. But what we'll do is we're just going to blend in certain parts, because there's like, especially this area here, I love what's going on over here. This part I've already dealt with, so I don't need to deal with that. The foreground I'm fine with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a layer mask and invert it, so Control and I, and that's going to invert that layer mask. And now I am going to grab a white brush, grab my brush tool, a white brush, and I'm going to turn the opacity down to about 10%. And then I'm just going to slowly start to paint in the areas that I want. Okay, so I want all that moodiness in this bit of sky. I want this corner, a little bit up here, a little bit down there, and just on this, a little bit in the corners. What did I just do then? A little bit down there. I don't know what that layer is. I think I was just painting white. And yeah, now what I'm doing is effectively I'm painting in that top layer. So I can't remember how to do that. Is it Shift and /? No, can't remember how to hide that layer. It's been a while. But yeah, there's the original. So now I'm just painting in some of those darker bits. Okay, so I don't want it in the whole image. I just want it sort of in this guy here. I want my corners to be a little bit darker. Okay, I'm leaving all this area alone because I've already dealt with that. Okay, so yeah, using an inverted layer mask to paint back in some of that contrast and clarity. So that's looking a little bit better now. And I think I did notice a dust spot. Let me just get in there. No, it's just a cloud. It's okay. Don't panic. It's just a cloud. Okay, so there's the before and there's the after. So just darkening down the sky. I do like to have a dark top and bottom and kind of have everything in the middle. So that's looking nice. Okay, really bringing out, you know, it's a storm. It's a storm. We want it to look stormy. Okay, so that's looking good. And now finally, as a last little thing, I'm just going to check my levels, and I can see here my white point. I don't have a white point, so I'm going to grab this level slider, bring that up. I don't want to bring it up too far because then I will blow my highlights. So I'm just going to bring that till it's almost touching. I have a black point and that's fine. Let's just bring it in and see what it does. Okay, like that's actually nice. Now, I haven't looked at these images, so yeah, bear with me while I try and work out how I want to do it. I do like having that in there, but we might do a separate adjustment for that. Let's get our whites. Okay, so by lifting my white point up, just stretching out that histogram. So there's where we started, and that's where we're at now. So again, they're all just little adjustments. I don't sort of do over the top adjustments. I like to keep everything fairly subtle. Keep it as not real, but you know, a little photoshopping as possible. You've got to Photoshop it. That's why we have Photoshop to Photoshop. And then finally, another good thing for dark and moody, and hopefully Pam will remember this one. What we're going to do is we're going to darken everything down. I think we did this in Lightroom with Pam. So you do a radial gradient and then invert it. And this is kind of what I'm doing here. And then what I'm going to do is turn my brush up to about 50%. Okay, so now that I've darkened everything, I sort of just want to undarken the middle of the frame and the water. So then all I'm doing is darkening the edges. Okay, so I've darkened the edges. I always overdo it and then just grab my opacity, take it all the way down. So then that's not doing anything, and then just slowly start to lift it up until we just sort of darken the edges a little bit, just to draw our eye into where all the action is. And that's about it. That's a full workflow of how I do one of my panos. Okay, this one was, yeah, look, it's stitched together quite well. You do get some that, you know, you might have two masts from a yacht or two trees or two branches. This one has stitched together quite well. Okay, there's nothing obvious that's standing out. Yeah, the guy, oh, you know, if there was a guy that I took at my tree. I think he had a hat on and he was carrying his fish on and he had his dog. Happy to leave him in because he looked cool. So yeah, if that fisherman guy's watching, I'm not saying you don't look cool. I'm just saying I don't want you in my shot. Okay. And that's about it. That's. And again, what I'll do now is I'll sit on this and I'll come back to it tomorrow, and then I'll completely change it because I won't be happy with it. And I do that a lot. I will do my first edit, I'll sit on it, and I'll come back and revisit it the next day. And I'll change it. I'll completely change it. So at the moment, it's looking okay. Another thing I do is zoom all the way out. I don't know, just for some reason, seeing it as a thumbnail, you sort of pick up on things. And straight away, that bright white bit right in the middle is starting to annoy me. Okay, it's just, that bit there just feels a bit too bright. But, you know, again, that's one of those things. I might deal with that another day. But as it is, pretty happy with that. And finally, sharpening. I'll show you how I do my sharpening. I really don't like the way Lightroom sharpens. Photoshop has the best sharpening, and it's been here for a long time. You just go up to Filter, Sharpen, and Smart Sharpen. And I've tried all sorts of sharpening, everything from the old, the high pass filter. I think I did a video on the high pass filter years ago. The high pass filter used to be the go-to way of sharpening. and that's kind of what the Smart Sharpen does now. Smart Sharpen does a high pass, so it's only sharpening the areas it needs to. It's a Smart Sharpen. It sharpens what it needs to, okay? I have 3 little presets that I've created. So there's your default one. I've created one called Epic, which I usually do on my big images. So the more megapixels you've got, the more resolution you've got, more sharpening basically. And as you can see on this image, it's a bit too much. Like I'm talking when I'm like that 3.5 meter picture that I did, I used Epic sharpening on that one because it was so big. So an image like this, medium, I just use medium, which is not far off the default. Okay, so 100%, 150% amount, radius at 1.5 pixels, and reduced noise by about 10%. Okay, and if we look at our before and after, it's only a subtle sharpen, so I don't even know if you're going to see that on YouTube. It's just a subtle sharpen, and that's what I use for print. Like every time I do an image, it's for print, okay? If I go to upload this onto Facebook or social media, I will adjust it a little bit more, basically make it more vibrant, because that's what people like on social media, over the top color. But yeah, as far as print goes, that's the sharpen that I use for my prints. It's just it's a subtle sharpen. There's a few other things I'd do for a print. I'll cover printing in another video. If I was to print this image, it would look too dark because I'm in a dark room. There's a lots of factors for print. You don't want to be editing in a dark room for starters. You need to edit in the light that you're going to display your print. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. So where are we up to? We're up to 50 minutes. Let's go and have a quick, and then all I'm going to do is hit File and Save, and that's going to save it back into Lightroom. So yeah, look, I love a good storm, and even though we didn't get lightning, I think I said I was going to Photoshop some in, but I might save that for another time. I don't have any good lightning shots on hand that I can Photoshop in, but yeah, look, I like that photo. I was quite happy with that. And then I think I did one more pano as the tide came in, and I got my shot. Okay, and that's what it was all about. It was all about getting, I did have a plan when I went out. I had a plan for that lone tree. I did have a plan for lightning, but even we didn't get our lightning, so I've got the epic storm clouds, got color, got sunset, it's all going on. Quite happy with it. Again, I'm not too keen on this tree just creeping in from the edge. I may still crop this more, and again, that's another reason I kind of revisit them. I may crop it in a little bit more just to make it a bit cleaner. Okay, like already I like that more. I do. I do think it looks better without. That's just a distraction. Okay, I kind of, it's one of those places where once you sort of get a bit too much of that, the mainland or the mangroves in, it does get messy. So that is probably better. I think I do like the crop more. But again, like, if I was to print this, I would spend another month before I print it. I would, yeah, it'd take me a long time to decide on when I'm happy to print something. Love the stormy, cloudy weather photos. I've been waiting for a day like that. And of course I missed it. Yeah, well, I've missed a lot this year. I've missed a lot. So it's one of those things that if it looks like it's going to rain and it's going to be stormy, it's probably a good idea to get out there. Go out in the bad weather. Okay. Yeah, storm, it's hard to take a bad shot with a storm. It really is. As long as it's not just grey sheet cloud. If you can get a storm front rolling in, and this isn't like, I love those big epic storm fronts. This was just a stormy sort of cloudy night. G'day, Linda. Better late than never. Yeah, thank you for joining in, and thank you, and I'm just about to leave. No, I've just finished. I've done one edit. I've been talking for nearly an hour, and I've done one edit. So I went through my photos from Tugum earlier on, and the Tugum photos, I wasn't a fan of them, because when you've got photos like this, this is what I like. Okay, there's probably people that are out there that prefer the Tugum photos. But this is what I like. I like just epic cloud colour, simple compositions. This has just got everything. Like it's got the yacht, it's got reflections, it's got a lone tree, epic clouds. That was the shot that I wanted. Okay, and I got it. I really wanted some lightning, but I'm not going to complain. Okay, so and then we had to move in because I've got a bung ankle and I couldn't sort of hang around in the water. I've done another little pano. So this is another one. The sky started going off, like we started to get some really nice color here, but it was all happening over to the side, which composition wise, yeah, I don't like it. I'm getting a bit fussy with my compositions now. I really do like to have a nice clean shot. And again, like it's okay. Again, like there's plenty of detail in that. If I just darken that down a bit, and even if we just boost up our vibrance, warm it up maybe just a little bit, do our clarity, our texture and our dehaze, like there's lots going on in that sky. Like I love the sky, but just the foreground doesn't really do much for me. Okay, and I think I said that on stream, that once we sort of got pushed back in, yeah, you kind of lose. And the sky, it's one of those nights you can't pick where the light is going to light up. You know, sometimes it's right where the sun's setting, you get all the colour. Sometimes it's directly behind you where you get the colour. This time it was kind of almost 90 degrees one way, all our colour was there. But you know, you plan for that and then it's going to be 90 degrees the other way. So it's one of those things you just got to be there and hope you can find a composition. And look, this is okay. It's not terrible. But I've got that other shot, so I'll just skip past that. And then we did a few here as well, because again, we were starting to get all that colour in the sky. Okay, so yeah, lots of colour. Again, I'm not going to edit it, but you can kind of get an idea of, it's a pretty epic sky, but just having a nice clean shot, having a nice clean foreground. See, and I think that's just me being fussy. I think most people would probably be happy just to get that epic sky. Where I want everything. I want a good foreground, a good midground, and a good sky, and that's kind of what I got with the pano. So yeah, it's sort of getting fussy. Like it's an okay shot, but yeah. And then eventually we move up onto the beach and we get the log, and I've got a plan for this log. I was talking to Jack about it the other night. I do have a plan for this log, and it's going to involve a portrait shoot. So yeah, multiple exposures. So I think from memory, I did a photo stack, a focus stack. I focused on the log to start with, exposed for the log and focused on the log, and then focused on the background, focused on the sky, and exposed for the sky. So we'll do a really quick stack. And you know what? This will probably work in Lightroom. If we just select our dark exposure and our light exposure, and if we just go up to photo merge and HDR, I reckon Lightroom will do a pretty good job at it. The HDR function in Lightroom is really good now. It kind of knows what you're trying to do. Let's just have a look at the auto align. Yeah, there is a little bit of, there's a thing called focus breathing. So if you focus on something in your foreground, even if the same focal length, if you're at the exact same focal length and you focus something on your foreground and then focus something in your background, you'll get a little bit of lens shift. So the auto align can be handy if you're doing focus stacking. Okay, so if you focus on the distance and then focus up close, you will get a little bit of breathing. So the auto align feature, even if you're on a tripod at the same focal length, use that. Okay. And it's done a pretty good job. I'm just going to go through these and just have a quick look. It's kind of hard to tell with Lightroom. It's doing some weird, funky things over here. It's taking a long time to build the preview, and the camera might start to go a bit glitchy doing this. All right, I'm going to leave it on none because I've just found none works the best. Let's apply the auto settings and have a quick look. Yeah, merge it. The good thing with the HDR now, if you apply the auto settings, you can rechange them whenever you want. You know, the older versions of HDR, once you did it, that was it. It kind of stamped your image. But now the newer version of HDR, it just keeps getting better and better. Okay, so that was with the auto adjustment, which I absolutely don't like. And you can kind of see what the auto adjustment's done over here. I'm just going to apply my Seascape preset. And because we've done a focus stack, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so that log is perfectly sharp. All that sand's sharp. Let's have a quick look at our background. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so the HDR, it's done a pretty good job. It's done a pretty good job of aligning those images. So then, yeah, like with this one, you know, I did it more just to show that we can do it. I don't think we need to. I kind of almost like that log being a silhouette against the sky. Again, it's not a great composition. Similar to the Tugum, all the footprints in the sand just make for a bit of a messy shot. So, yeah, this was, you know, we're at that stage of the night where I got my shot and we were just sort of playing. We were just sort of playing around. Okay, on a high tide, this log is really nice on a high tide, because the water comes up and laps right underneath this log, so you don't have any sand. And I think that's where I got my astro shot, the comet shot here. So the tide was nice and high, there was no sand, the log was in the water, and I got the comet coming through the top. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, that log definitely works better for a high tide. And then we did a pano too, didn't we? Yep. Okay, so this was the one with it in the middle. There's a beer can down in the bottom corner there. So we'll clone that out. And again, like the sky is really nice. Probably just bring it up a little bit. Let's have a quick play with this. We're on the hour. I don't want to go much longer than an hour. So another pano. So yeah, like I mentioned in the live stream, whenever we get storms, I tend to do a lot of panos when we have storms, because there's so much to take in. Like there's color over this way, there's color over this way. Panos they get everything. And again, it's okay, but too much sand. I'm going to crop that in a bit further. Again, it's too much sand. Too much sand. This is another one of those shots. I just took, again, on a high tide, if we had a high tide and all that sand was, you know, if we had water there, it'd look much nicer. But again, all the footprints in the sand, that's just me being fussy. I want a nice, calm, nice flat sandy beach, no footprints. And, you know, again, with stormy photos, the texture, the clarity, especially the clarity in the dehaze. Texture, not so much, but the clarity in the dehaze, let me just crank them up and look at the difference that makes. If we look at our before and then our after, okay, really sort of brings out all that cloud. Yeah, they're good sliders for stormy nights. It's a little bit too cool, that. And I think that's going to be about it. I think we just have one more pano that's basically the same. Is that one any better? Oh, that's the one where I put the log off to the side. I think that one is better, to tell the truth. Let's just have a quick look. And I'm just going to leave you on one final little tip for editing. Yeah, I kind of do like that one a little bit better. Just a little bit. Okay, so to get white balance, so a good tip for white balance, if we just move all of these slides, so take your highlights all the way down, take your whites all the way down, blacks all the way up, shadows all the way up, crank up your contrast to 100%, and then you'll sort of get a very high contrast image. And now I can see it's very blue. So this is where you sort of adjust your temperature, and just to get everything, and look how much I'm taking my temperature up just to get it looking a bit more, you know, getting our white balance sorted. Okay, so somewhere around about there. So that's a good way of just testing your white balance. Some people like to just crank up the saturation and try and work out where there it's too blue, and you just kind of get it to that point where you're reasonably happy with it. And then another thing we can do is if we hold the, which one is it? Shift Alt. If we hold the Alt button, we can just reset these, so we can leave our white balance where it is. Oh, we can't, it's going to reset the whole lot. I thought there was a way of just resetting. Just double click on them. Just double click on them and they'll reset. Yeah, I thought we could leave our white balance and do the rest. No, obviously. Oh yeah, there's white balance up the top, idiot. So yeah, hold your Alt key and then just hit reset tone and that'll bring everything back to normal, but leave your white balance. There is a separate one for your reset white balance. So yeah, holding the Alt key and you can reset any of these basically all the way through. Reset mixer just by holding the Alt key. You can reset. So if you go through and do all these adjustments and you just want to reset, you know, for example, if we just play with our color mixer and make it look terrible, okay, the quick way to reset it, hold the Alt and then reset and it'll just reset that little panel. Okay, so yeah, that's a good tip. Yeah, a lot of people like to just crank up the saturation to do their white balance. I have a preset over here called HDR Extreme. So I usually click on that, get my white balance sorted, and then just reset everything so my white balance is kind of where I want it. So that's about it. I think that's about it. I don't want to go for too long. I think I did waffle on a fair bit early on. Let me just leave you with this my final image. Is that the one? Yeah, that one. I think I do like the crop better. All right, well, thank you to everyone who popped in and everyone who had a chat. So, yeah, look, if you want to leave a like, leave a like. It doesn't really matter with the live streams, to tell the truth, especially the editing ones, because these are more just to, you know, show you the raw files, show you what I've captured during those live streams. Okay, so I do find the live streams taking photos a lot more interesting and more enjoyable. I'm out taking photos. The editing process, it was fun to edit this image, don't get me wrong, I did have fun editing this image. But yeah, like I said, with those Tugem ones, I wouldn't even bother. I'm getting too fussy. There's sort of nothing in there that I like. The photos of Jack are fine. I'll save a couple of them just for Jack. Like this one's, yeah, it's okay. Again, it'll make for a nice wall art. But yeah, the photos with Jack is the silhouette. I do like them. The rest of the Tugem ones, I won't delete them, I'll keep them. But I will go back to Tugem and give it another crack. I'm not going to go back there, hopefully when it's a bit quiet. And that's I was thinking about it. The problem was at Tugem, we had a high tide on sunset, and that's the perfect time to be fishing. Okay, high tide on sunset, a little bit of the run-in tide, a little bit of the run-out tide, and that's when you want to go fishing. But I don't want to be there at low tide to take photos. I do want to be there on the high tide. So we might have to wait till the middle of winter to revisit Tugem. So yeah, I think that's about it. So yes, thank you all again for joining in. I might go and grab another beer and leave. And yeah, look, I'm going to be back out doing a lot more live streams. I do want to do some more live streams. I'm going to head down to Urangan soon. I might do another one at Tugem. I want to do one at Burham Heads. So yeah, got a few plans. But yeah, sooner rather than later, I might we'll just do a meet-up down at one of the piers now that my foot's feeling better. If I'm going to go out and take some photos, I'll just pop something on Facebook. So keep an eye on Facebook. I'll put something on there when I'm going to head out, and maybe we can all just have a meet-up. Had a really nice night last night with Leslie and Suzanne. We went down to Scarness, did some nice long exposures with those two, and it was good to be out. It was good. All right, I'm going to stop talking crap. All right, thank you all again, and I will hopefully see you out in the wild very shortly. So thanks again, and goodbye.